The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of my Seattle loft at 11:51 p.m., each drop a relentless percussion that mirrored the storm building inside me. I sat at the mahogany desk, the glow from my laptop screen casting sharp shadows across the limestone floors, illuminating the steam rising from my untouched black coffee. The city lights blurred into streaks below, a distant reminder of the empire I had built in silence. I clicked open the email attachment, a bank statement time-stamped 48 hours earlier, and there it was, the confirmation of betrayal. $78,000 transferred without my consent. I didn't flinch. I didn't reach for the phone. Instead, I leaned back in the leather chair, the cool air from the vents brushing my skin, and began to unravel the threads of a life I had long outgrown. I am Elena Voss, a real estate portfolio manager who oversees acquisitions worth millions for discreet clients across the Pacific Northwest. My profession demands precision, foresight, and an unerring ability to assess value, skills I honed in the shadows of a family that never saw mine. I had accumulated a personal portfolio exceeding $2.5 million, properties scattered from Portland suburbs to coastal retreats, all funded through calculated investments and late-night negotiations. Yet, to my family I remained the practical one, the background character who fixed problems without fanfare. They never knew the extent of my success. I kept it hidden, a fortress against their endless demands. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. My family dynamic was a meticulously constructed facade, one where roles were assigned like assets on a balance sheet. My father, Reginald Voss, was the architect, a retired executive whose narcissistic command extended from boardrooms to our dining table. He was domineering, his voice a booming authority that brooked no dissent, always framing his exploitation as tough love. My mother, Miriam, served as the enabler, her gentle demeanor a veneer over passive complicity. She prioritized the illusion of harmony, smoothing over his cruelties with excuses like he's just stressed or family comes first. Then there was my younger brother, Lucas, the golden child, an entitled 28-year-old whose string of failed entrepreneurial ventures was perpetually bailed out by others' efforts. I was the scapegoat, the load-bearing wall they leaned on without acknowledgement. From childhood I handled the practicalities, paying bills when Reginald's investments faltered, covering Lucas's debts disguised as loans, and managing the family's finances under the guise of filial duty. They took, and I gave believing it preserved the structure. But structures crumble when the foundation is eroded. The inciting betrayal unfolded 3 weeks prior, during a family dinner at the Portland home. They had recently moved into a spacious $750,000 colonial with manicured lawns and crystal chandeliers, a property I had quietly acquired years ago through a revocable living trust in my name alone. They believed it stemmed from a vague inheritance. I allowed the misconception as it kept the peace. The evening began with the scent of roasted lamb wafting from the kitchen, the clink of silverware on porcelain plates echoing in the high-ceilinged dining room. Reginald sat at the head, his graying hair impeccably combed, presiding like a king. Miriam fluttered about, serving portions with a forced smile. Lucas lounged across from me, scrolling his phone, oblivious as ever. We were discussing their recent move, how the house suited their retirement dreams, how Lucas would use the guest suite for his latest startup idea. Then Reginald turned to me, his eyes narrowing. "Elena, we've been carrying you long enough," he said, his voice carrying just enough to ensure it landed like a verdict. "You're 34 now, still single, still relying on us. That money we transferred, $78,000 from your accounts, it was necessary. We needed it more for the down payment adjustments. You're a financial burden, always have been." The words hung in the air, sharp as the edge of a ledger. Miriam averted her gaze, murmuring something about dessert. Lucas smirked, adding, "Yeah, sis, time to step up instead of holding us back." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I set down my fork with deliberate calm, the metal clicking softly against the plate. "Is that how you see it?" I asked, my tone measured, echoing his accusation. Inside, the realization crystallized. This wasn't a slip. It was the culmination of years of theft veiled as family obligation. They had forged my signature on power of attorney documents, siphoning funds I had earmarked for my own investments. The dinner ended abruptly. I excused myself, the rain starting as I stepped into the night, the cold droplets soaking through my coat as I drove back to Seattle. That night marked the fracture, the moment I decided to dismantle the facade. Before I continue, I want you to hit that subscribe button if you have ever been labeled a burden by those who benefited most from your silence. You are not alone. Alone in a nondescript hotel room on the outskirts of Seattle, the hum of the air conditioner the only companion, I processed the betrayal. The bed's crisp white sheets remained untouched. I paced the carpeted floor, my laptop open on the small desk, its screen reflecting the glow of transaction histories. Coffee from the lobby machine cooled beside me, its bitterness a fitting echo. I was the load-bearing wall in their structure, the one holding up the edifice while they adorned the facade. But this wasn't a family, it was a business model, with me as the unwitting investor absorbing all the risk. The pattern of abuse stretched back decades. As a child, I managed household budgets when Reginald's bold stock trades left us short. In my 20s, I covered Lucas's $15,000 credit card debt after his first failed app venture, only for him to dismiss it as sisterly duty. Miriam always mediated with pleas for unity, binding me through guilt. I had internalized it, believing my role was essential. Now, in the sterile quiet of that room, I saw it clearly. Each extraction eroded my foundation, leaving me hollow. Psychologists have a term for it. They call it narcissistic family systems, where the family operates as a single organism, with the narcissist at the head assigning roles to maintain control. The golden child, like Lucas, receives unearned praise and resources, reinforcing loyalty. The scapegoat, like me, bears the blame and burdens, a repository for the family's dysfunction. It's sustained through trauma bonding, intermittent rewards amid consistent harm, creating a cycle of dependence. Consider the metaphor of the elephant, tied to a stake. As a calf, it's restrained by a rope it can't break. As an adult, with immense strength, it remains bound, conditioned to believe escape is impossible. I had been that elephant, tethered by learned helplessness, unaware of my power. If this resonates with you, know that recognizing the system is the first step to untying the rope. Viewers often share in comments how this framework validated their own experiences, illuminating patterns they couldn't name. The evidence gathering began at dawn the next day, in my office overlooking Puget Sound. I initiated a forensic audit of my accounts, pulling up transaction histories on dual monitors. The first discrepancy, a wire transfer of $78,000 at 2:17 p.m. on October 14, routing number 021000021, from my primary savings to an account in Reginald's name. Then deeper, forged power of attorney forms, scanned signatures mismatched by pixel analysis, mine from a decade-old document crudely photoshopped. Spreadsheets revealed a pattern: $12,000 in March for home repairs, $28,000 in June for Lucas's business loan, totaling $150,000 over 2 years. I cross-referenced property records. The Portland home's title was solely in my trust, established in 2015 with a $150,000 down payment from my earnings. They had occupied it under a verbal agreement, but legally, it was mine. The discovery of conspiracy hit hardest. Emails between Reginald and Lucas, timestamped 11:42 a.m. on September 22, discussing how to reallocate Elena's funds without her knowledge. Miriam CC'd in silent approval. This wasn't oversight, it was premeditated fraud. I scheduled a consultation with my attorney, Harlan Reed, in his mahogany-paneled office on the 40th floor of a downtown high-rise. The scent of aged leather and polished wood filled the room as I laid out the documents. Harlan, a seasoned litigator with wire-rimmed glasses and a no-nonsense demeanor, reviewed the files methodically. "Elena, this is wire fraud and forgery, federal offenses," he stated, pointing to the timestamps. "The power of attorney is invalid. Signatures don't match forensic standards. As sole trustee of the property, you hold absolute leverage. We can revoke accesses immediately, initiate a quiet title action to affirm ownership, and pursue restitution." We discussed strategy: a private sale of the home to liquidate the asset, clawback provisions for the misappropriated funds, and potential criminal referrals. "The severity here is embezzlement," he emphasized. "They exploited your trust literally." By the session's end, the plan coalesced, legal precision as my weapon, restoring balance without descending to their level. The revenge implementation unfolded with timed precision from a neutral coffee shop in Bellevue, my laptop shielded by a privacy screen. I had exactly 30 minutes before the family's scheduled dinner, enough to strike without immediate detection. First, I targeted the financial accesses, Logging into my bank's portal at 6:32 p.m., I revoked the forged power of attorney with a digital signature, confirmation code 748293 sent via email. Next, I initiated clawback transfers, $78,000 reversed to my account, followed by $72,000 in traced installments, each click echoing like a gavel. But the real strike was the property. Through my real estate network, I listed the Portland home for a private sale at $725,000 net. Buyer pre-qualified, escrow opened at 6:45 p.m. Cancel access to utilities under my name. Revoke informal occupancy agreement. Confirm. Technology served as my silent ally, portals, audits, digital trails ensuring irrefutability. Immediate consequences erupted within hours. My phone buzzed incessantly, voicemails from Reginald at 7:15 p.m., his voice cracking, "Elena, what have you done?" The bank froze everything. Texts from Lucas, "Sis, this is messed up. We needed that money, fix it." Miriam's plea, "Please call, we're family." Group chat messages devolved into panic. Lucas blaming Reginald for pushing too far, Reginald retorting that Lucas's failures necessitated it. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I monitored the fallout remotely, the coffee shop's ambient chatter a buffer to their chaos. No public social media reveal. Discretion preserved my advantage. The confrontation scene materialized 2 days later at the Portland home, with a notary and local police officer present as witnesses, arranged through Harlan for legal weight. The driveway's gravel crunched under tires as I arrived at 10 a.m., the house's facade gleaming under overcast skies. Reginald opened the door, his face ashen, Miriam hovering behind with tear-streaked cheeks, Lucas pacing the foyer. "Elena, this is insanity," Reginald barked, his voice laced with desperation. "You can't sell our home." I presented the documents calmly, title deed in my name, audit reports highlighting the $150,000 fraud, timestamps irrefutable. "You forged my signature," I stated, echoing their earlier dismissals. "You called me a burden while siphoning my assets." Lucas interjected, "We needed it more, your success was for the family." The officer, a stoic figure in uniform, reinforced, "Ma'am, these indicate criminal activity, cooperation is advised." Miriam pleaded, "Elena, think of us, where will we go?" Threats followed, Reginald vowing lawsuits, Lucas muttering about disownment. But the evidence stood unassailable, the notary affirming the sale's closure. The family implosion accelerated in that room. Reginald turned on Lucas. "This is your fault. Your endless schemes drained us." Lucas shot back, "You authorized it all, Dad. Mom, you knew." Miriam dissolved into sobs, blaming Reginald's temper. The family organism was cannibalizing itself, roles fracturing as dependencies surfaced. They realized I had been their sole support, the hidden financier propping up their illusions. Pathetic scrambling ensued, frantic calls to banks, blame-shifting texts I later reviewed. In the chaos, their unity shattered, exposing the hollow core. 2 weeks later, the eviction notice arrived via certified mail, the home sold and funds deposited into my secured accounts. 6 months on, legal consequences solidified. Reginald faced charges for forgery and embezzlement, resulting in a suspended sentence and $150,000 restitution order, payable over 5 years. Their unsecured debts, $120,000 in loans once masked by my contributions, pushed them toward bankruptcy filings. Miriam and Lucas relocated to a modest rental in Eugene, their lifestyle downsized to economy sedans and part-time jobs. The Portland property's liquidation covered my losses, with surplus reinvested into my portfolio. In my new coastal apartment in Cannon Beach, waves crashing against the shore visible from the wraparound balcony, I reclaimed my life. The space was minimalist, limestone counters, ocean blue accents, a home office bathed in natural light. For the first time I felt the weight lift, the air untainted by obligation. My younger cousin, Ava, another overlooked family member, joined me, escaping the toxicity. We built routines of independence, her pursuing studies I funded without strings. This wasn't revenge. It was restorative justice, a balance sheet correction, where exploited assets were reclaimed. There is a concept in philosophy called retributive equilibrium, not punishment for its own sake, but restoration of equity disrupted by wrongdoing. I distinguished between vengeance, emotional and destructive, and restoration, methodical, evidence-based recalibration. I didn't bankrupt my family, I just balanced the books. The psychological healing came gradually. Grief for the lost illusion, mingling with affirmation of my choice. I mourned the family that never was, but embraced the strength unearthed. I had to become the villain in their story to be the hero in mine. If you've ever had to be the villain in someone else's story just to survive in your own, share this video, you're not alone. If you want to hear more stories about reclaiming your life, make sure you're subscribed.